Welcome to Emo Lab's Talk Series podcast, where we explore how technology shapes our lives. From digital consumers to gig workers and service robots, we delve into the world of algorithms, AI, and automation, examining how they transform our emotions, behaviors, and businesses. In each episode, we bring you thought-provoking conversations on the impacts of algorithmic capitalism and how to navigate a future increasingly dominated by machines. Join us for insights into who benefits, who's left out, and what it all means for the future. On today's episode of the Emo Lab Talk Series podcast, we're pleased to welcome back Chris Meunier, lecturer and co-chair of the Marketing Advisory Council at the Ted Rogers School of Management, as well as fractional CMO at H for Development Corporation. With over 15 years of experience in sales and marketing, Chris brings a practical, industry-informed perspective on using AI at work. In this episode, Chris breaks down how to turn chaotic AI use into a clear, structured workflow. He explains why disorganized files and lost context, not weak models, are the real bottlenecks, and shares practical strategies for building reliable AI workspaces and getting more consistent, repeatable results from tools like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and Perplexity.
And hello, everyone. I hope you're having a good day. Um, this is our second version of this lecture today. So it's very interesting because earlier in the morning we had a problem with Cloudflare that affected worldwide websites and such. So I didn't have access to all the tools. So I'm very happy to have a round two in the same day. And we'll get into it today. I'm going to talk about from chaos to clarity, structuring your AI workspace for marketing projects. So I'll just get into it. We'll hold the questions to the end. A little bit about me first. I am an alumni of TRSM, marketing major, professional business communications minor. I'm currently the co-chair of the Marketing Advisory Council. Um, I won the 2025 Alumni Leadership, Volunteer Leadership Award, which I'm very honored for. And that has to do with primarily, well, being part of the Marketing Advisory Council, but also the amount of lectures I've delivered. A few in Marketing 700. This is my third one in 702, and then a whole bunch in 802. So if you're going into 802, or maybe some of you already saw me in 802, that's awesome. I used to work as a VP of sales and marketing for a national digital marketing agency. I worked across Canada. I had upwards of 42 or 44 reps selling digital advertising. And yeah, we're also a little bit in the US. I've done some fractional CMO work supporting companies through digital transformation and strategic growth. And right now, I'm fully focused on building Think Circle, a strategic agency that I'm launching that is focused on strategy and audit first with AI readiness. Um, and yeah, I have about 15 plus advanced courses or certificates or specializations in AI since 2023 from MIT Sloan, Vanderbilt University, Wharton, Deep Learning, and some other ones. And yeah, so I'm excited to share what I'm going to show you. Um, this landscape changes so fast. You all know that. And everything that I'm going to show you is just my preferential workflow. So I hope it helps you out. So we'll get right into it. So why AI organization matters. This is from my own experience, and I've been so frustrated with, the wrong outputs and this and that and so many different things. And I kind of realized the problem isn't the AI always. Sometimes it is, but it's the workflow. And I assume most people struggle not because the models are weak, but because their setup is chaotic. And it's no one's fault. We all have so many different LLMs that we can use, and the UIs are always changing. But there are some approaches that we can take to try and simplify and use a systematic approach when working with LLMs. So some of the common issues I've had are files scattered across chats and platforms, re-uploading the same PDFs and data sets, losing context from week to week, always having to tell the LLM what we're doing again, switching tools at the wrong time. We'll talk more about that later, but no structure for repeatable long-term work. And the bottleneck it causes is the real bottleneck is not prompt quality. not AI limitations. This could be part of it, but for this focus, it's workspace chaos and lack of structure. So actually planning a workspace before time. And I'm not talking about your one-off prompts, questions where you're just like talking. Basically, when you're getting into a project, you're working on something and you know you're going to be on it for a long time. Maybe you have multiple contributors, you have lots of data, lots of files. This is when setting up your workspace ahead of time can really help you and save time. And then obviously the other bottleneck, too many options and continually changing user interfaces. So I'll just slide over to the overview. So the session structure, we're going to go through key definition and tool comparison, file organization fundamentals, teaching AI your setup. We'll do a live demo, one, a ChatGPT project folder. I'm going to show you a few other folders actually too, and a live demo with a custom GPT agent. Very simple, repeatable task. And the word repeatable is very important because if we have repeatable tasks, there's something that we can do to make it so we can always get the exact same output. And we'll be looking at that today. And then we'll talk about the takeaways and Q&A. By the end of the session, you should know how to choose the right AI tool for your marketing project or future work projects, strategic file naming and description techniques, how to teach AI to use your workspace effectively. And I will show you live examples from my folders, spaces, and custom GPTs. So we'll get right into the workspace terms. So for the workspaces that we're going to talk about today, we're going to look at ChatGPT folders, right? So this isn't a one-off chat. This is when you create a folder in ChatGPT. And why you would create a folder is to have group-related chats together. But there is no folder level instructions, which we'll talk about later. Claude projects is great for a multi-file workspace with persistent context up to 200 files. Now, I'm just going to highlight ChatGPT folders, Claude projects. They're somewhat the same thing. They're a place to organize all of your chats, but the different LLMs, their UIs have different names for almost the same feature. And this is what can add some complexity to the different options that we have. Now, to add more to it, Perplexity has what's called spaces. It's really good for research, focus, file storage up to 50, but it doesn't have project memory. And we'll talk more about memory later, which is very important. And then Gemini, integrated with Google Workspace. It's similar to ChatGPT, but it uses native drive access. And I will admit, I know you're all on Workspace. I don't use Gemini as much as the other LLMs, but for this, we'll talk about it for a little bit. Now, workflow, the repeatable sequence for setting up AI workspaces. So we'll look more into this and I'll show it to you. But basically, when I set up a workspace that I know I'm going to use again and it's going to create, or I'm going to use for a while, it's going to create some really important stuff, whether that's a graded assignment for you or something for a client or something I'm working on to bring to market, I will prepare my files, which can also be ongoing. I will document files in Notion, but you can do it anywhere to Notepad, Google Sheets, wherever, and I will upload them to the LLM, which we'll show you later, and then I'll add in a README. A README is something that's great. It's a software term. We'll expand on it. But if you're going to have a folder or a project or a space or whatever we're going to call it, you should have a README in there if you have certain specific outputs you're looking for and guidelines you want that LLM to follow within that space or the folder that you're working in. Then you can teach your AI to scan that and then you can execute tasks. This way, you should be getting predictable outcomes and you don't have to sit there fine tuning and using iterative prompts to get to where you want to go every time, which is just going to drive you a little bit crazy. But most importantly, it's going to take away from your bandwidth of actually succeeding and doing what you should be doing. Um, so instructions, how you guide AI. So there are system level rules that guide AI behavior. So ChatGPT, they're only available in custom GPTs. There's no option to add instructions to a folder, which I'll show you. And that's where README really comes in handy. Now, Claude, they have projects, remember, instead of folders, but project level instructions are there, but with character limits. So we can still use a README if we have something that exceeds those character limits. And then Perplexity, um, it actually does have some project notes, but it's kind of the same as Claude if it's big. So I should have put that there. If you have a lot of like rules, then you'll have to add a README. Now, I don't want to get too far into it because I don't want to go too technical. It is a little bit of a technical talk, but I want to be a narrow focus. But I do have to just quickly talk about the difference between a custom GPT versus a persona versus an agent. So a custom GPT, for any of you that don't know, is a ChatGPT assistant with persistent instructions. You can preload files, you can trigger automations. When I say persistent instructions, what I mean by that is once you put in the rules, it will follow those rules. And then you can fine tune them. So that's like, a very set form of rules. It barely ever breaks them unless you put the rules in and it's not organized properly. Claude, it would be more of a persona, so you can put like project level behavior instructions. I didn't put anything for Gemini in here, but for Perplexity, there's really like there's a research assistant, but it doesn't have long-term memory and there's no automation capability. So those are some of the key terms. We're going to keep coming back to most of them. So, all right. So the session platforms. So we're going to look at ChatGPT. I feel it's best suited for structured workflows, repeatable outputs, especially when you want to use a custom GPT. And its strengths, its persistent rules. It has amazing automation integrations, Make, Zapier, and 8N. And it usually has pretty reliable formatting once you dial it in. Limits, smaller file window than Claude sometimes, and hallucinations and endless edit loops. So I'm just going to expand on the endless edit loops. I don't know if any of you ever noticed you're either working on something in chat or you're working on it in the canvas, which could either be embedded in the chat or it's on the side. It's like the working document that it changes. I found a lot of times when I'm working on a large document, I'll ask it to make some changes and I'll go through like, hey, this is good, this is good, this is good. It's all approved, ask it to change something. And unfortunately, it will change everything, right? It's not very good sometimes at giving you like back verbatim versus changing it all. Sometimes with the canvas, it doesn't do that as much, but that's a really a big limit that I find with it. And I really like Claude because it doesn't have that problem. Gemini, if you're a Google Drive user, Workspace user, the integration with Docs and Sheets creation is amazing. I actually love lecturing or coming to these because it makes me sometimes research and look more and then realize I have Gemini. I use Google Workspace, but I'm not utilizing it enough in my workflow. And I've already, since the earlier session, realized how I could actually make my workflow just a little bit simpler by using Gemini into my workflow. Its strengths, native workspace access, direct file creation, limits, smaller context than Claude, less mature than ChatGPT. Claude, I will tell you, Claude is my favorite. It's best for long PDFs, research, multi-week projects, and data visualization. I don't know if any of you saw some rudimentary data visualizations in the Marketing 700 lecture I did a week or two ago, but it's pretty fun to see the kind of data it can analyze and how it can visualize it for you and also interactive. And it has a huge context window. It's excellent for deep reasoning, great for refinement, and it's verbatim capable. So you don't get stuck in these endless edit loops. Limits, there's no true custom GPT system, no automation, and the cost is high. So it's always timing out. I'm playing like a battle with it. Of how much I'm using. There's timeouts weekly, daily, all types of stuff going on. But that is why I use a multi-agent or a cross LLM workflow. So I try and use the ones that are best for what they're good at, and also try and get some of the other ones that don't time out as fast to do the heavy lifting for me. And then Claude to do certain aspects, fine-tuning, final verification, that kind of stuff. Then there's Perplexity AI. I just want to let you all know I have I only started using it a while ago because I'm with Bell and they gave me a free pro version. So I was like, why not? And it's really good for research, verification, and file search. But other than that, it does have a lot of weaknesses, but it is very good for sourcing and finding stuff. So those are the session platforms that we're going to look over. We will look at Notion as well, but nothing to do with its AI, just one example. And to the next slide. Okay. So I'm not going to go too long into this comparison table because we kind of already talked about most of it. And I'll let you, this kind of expands on it, but I'll let you look at it. But there's something I didn't speak about, and that is memory. So a note on memory. Memory refers to whether the platform remembers uploaded files and project context across multiple chat sessions. Claude projects maintain persistent file context. You don't need to re-upload or re-explain. ChatGPT and Gemini maintain context only within individual conversations. Perplexity has no memory between sessions. Okay, and this isn't like I don't want you to get confused with the memory that it has for like basic info about you. I'm talking about memory in large chats where you're going from one chat to the other. That's another reason why I really like Claude. So memory is a big thing. I don't know if these other LLMs will catch up, but I would say that's like a significant advantage Claude has, and that's why it has some features that it's just better at. But you pay more for it. Okay, so platform organization tools. So I'm going to go through this because everything is kind of named differently. So like native chat folders. Okay. So what is that? A built-in system to organize and group conversations. ChatGPT, yes. Native folders, rename and organize chats. Claude, yes, but it's called projects. Okay. Perplexity. It does. I don't know why it says no. It should say yes. It has spaces for grouping research only. Gemini Workspace, maybe some of you will correct me, but no, I can only see renaming individual chats. I think there's something they're coming out with to change that around. Integration with files, I'm not going to go through all that, but I will just say Claude can take the most. But Gemini, the fact that it can integrate with your workspace and Drive, it can write and edit and create sheets and docs. That's a very powerful use case that I'm not currently utilizing and I should be. And then third-party extensions, Workspace Gemini doesn't really need it because it's already has its own ecosystem. ChatGPT has some. I don't use any. Claude has some. I installed the desktop version to get rid of it because every time I hit caps lock, it opens. So I'm going to take that off. And then the most important, I would say, out of here is the persistent instructions. Um, the only one that really has like fully, like Claude has it. ChatGPT, custom GPTs, not folder level, are really strong at it. That's where they shine. And Gemini has now come out with personal context memory for saved info and preferences. So it is catching up in that front. So with all of these options, and I know a lot of you are using, most of you are using Gemini right now due to TMU providing it. But as you go around, you'll be exposed to other LLMs if you're not already trying them. So here's a little bit of a decision framework. I didn't put I did put Gemini in there. Sorry, it's at the bottom. So you use ChatGPT folders when you have multiple deliverable projects, proposals, decks, reports. You need organized chat history, right? The organized chat history is probably the biggest thing from taking your workspace from chaos to clarity, right? And a lot of you are probably already doing that. I hope so. If you're not, or you're not doing it as much, if you're looking through your chats again and you're trying to find something and you find that you're looking for it often, you should probably just build a folder for it and it will save you a lot of time and frustration. Another use case is you're building towards a custom GPT. So when I talked about switching tools earlier, you don't always need to build a custom GPT out the gate unless you really have a specific use case and your experience with them. I'm pretty experienced with building them, but once you find you're doing a repeatable menial task or just something that's fully repeatable over and over again, and you're not doing it in a custom GPT, that's a great time to try and make a custom GPT if you haven't already. And Professor Legente has provided a source. You can actually, somebody asked before if you need to have the paid ChatGPT to do it with the cloud-based, you do, but there is a free option, and I'm sure he'll share that resource near the end of the session. He can put the link in there for that. And you want to save Claude for more important tasks. That's when I would use ChatGPT. And note, Gemini is a comparable alternative if you work primarily in Google Workspace. That's for all of you. All right, Claude, when to use. 5+ files to analyze simultaneously. So I don't mean just 5 files in a project. I mean, you want it looking at all types of files at once. You're doing deep research over multiple weeks. You have massive documents, complex dependencies. I'll show you some where I have them. They're called like this is a source of truth document, like everything derived in this stream has to come from these documents and blah, blah, blah. Like that's the kind of stuff that Claude really excels at. And once again, you need an organized chat history. It's kind of repeating in here, but that's like really the main thing of getting away from chaos. When to use Perplexity, competitor research for citations, market scanning, and trend analysis. You need verifiable grounded answers. Once again, you need an organized chat history. And once again, you want to save Claude for more important tasks. Uh, use custom GPT when you're going to build it when you have a repetitive workflow file naming, formatting. I'll show you some examples later. You have highly standardized outputs where you want to automate something. So you want one agent to talk to another agent and then complete a task, or multiple agents where you want to hook up with through API calls, application program interface calls. That can only be done through a custom GPT, really, like for the most part. And the problem is there is no folder organization option with them. So the chats coming out of there cannot go into a grouped folder. All right, so now that we talked about that, we can get into really the fundamental of making folders, project spaces, whatever they're called. And it's just like your Google Workspace or your documents on your computer, right? Why file naming matters. AI selects files based on names and descriptions. Poor naming equals wrong file selection, equals inaccurate outputs, or wasted time for the LLM scanning a massive document that's not the right document. Good naming, consistent, reliable results. So a few examples for a good naming pattern are, I just made something up. You can see the format, project name, content type, date, version, MKT 702, competitor analysis 2024. I'm a year behind, 1115 version 2. Clear, descriptive, sortable, purposeful. Okay, even down to the version, right? Because if you're putting multiple versions in, you don't want to take them down, you're updating them. Sometimes it just gets a little messy in there. If you have a proper README, you can tell always look at the newest version, right? And so then you name it V2 and it's something that you updated. Bad naming pattern. Well, I'm not going to read them out. You can see them there. They're unclear purpose, they're unsortable, and AI guesses, right? So, simple rule. The file name should tell you what's inside without opening. And I know this seems like, yes, it makes sense, but a lot of people don't do that when they upload their files to LLMs. And I'll give you an example. I've seen colleagues, and I'm like, what is all that in there? And it's, SEMrush exports. But the SEMrush exports, they don't come out with like all the data you need always, and we'll look at them. And there's like a simple way, which I'll show you, where you can take like 10 exports, and then within 30 seconds, you can have them named properly, and then you put them in the LLM, right? So it's just a little bit of housekeeping and organization of your data before you move it along. Um, Different file formats that work different ways. PDF, locked references, docs, obviously, if you want it editable or it's a working content or you're just using Google Docs and you download it as a doc. I like using Markdown for instructions. So README files, project setup, clean instruction sets. CSV is better for structured data. they can handle Excel, Excel and that kind of stuff, and the different variants of Excel. There's all different ones. But use cautiously. Formulas, tabs, it can confuse the AIs. And then if you're trying to pull lots of data out of something and you're like not going to go back through and check every source, well, it would be better if you gave it something a little cleaner, because the error chance is higher when you're not using a CSV. All right. File organization framework. So I think this is where I'm going to start breaking out of here and show you some stuff. But what I track, okay? So in this scenario, I basically have a file inventory for this a framework I'm making. So I have approval status, draft reviewed approved. I have lock, frozen and working, and that's in here. I'm going to show it to you in a minute. And I have which LLMs actually currently have the file, right? So I'm using multiple LLMs cross workflow, and they all have different versions or different files, right? And I'll show you an example of it. Why this system? Version control for reusable frameworks. I know what's approved versus editable. I prevent work on outdated versions. Quick retrieval from Notion. I use Notion. You can use anything you want if you decide to do this file kind of management system. And then you share it with your large language model, whichever one you want. So you screenshot it. LLM sees complete framework state, knows which files are approved, locked. You can ask the LLM if it wants any other files. I do not share all files with each LLM on cross LLM workflows all the time because sometimes it'll confuse them. Also, because sometimes I just forget to, or I get so tunnel vision and something happens that I just didn't get it over there. But I'll show you a simple way to deal with that. So if we look in here, this is actually my Notion for just one of the things I'm working on. So here's all the different file names. Here's the description. All right. Here's the track it's part of, reviewed source of truth, milestone, what it's part of, its use case, its status, okay, and then which LLM it's in. All right, so you can see a whole bunch of things in there. Now, let's go over here. So I've created a README document, and there's only 7 files in here. Okay. So if you note, there's only 7 files here, but this is how many files I have for this project so far. So ChatGPT doesn't know all of them. So I'm going to prompt it, and we'll look at this again, but I'm going to prompt it and I'm going to say, okay, we are going to start a task. Review the README, and let's see what it does. Take a minute. Little hamster's spinning a wheel somewhere. The data should come. I've reviewed the README and understand everything. Now, I noticed the most recent master file list, Think Circle, AI maturity, whatever, there's an extra app. File reference in the README protocol is dated November 6th. Based on your screenshot file name, is there an updated version? Right? So it's talking about the version it can see. So if I go in ChatGPT really quickly, and it loads fast enough here. No, it's really not loading fast. It's a little slow. Okay, perfect. So if we go into Think Circle, you'll see in here, I'm just going to open this up. Oh, no, it's a different one. Sorry. It's a total different one. AI Maturity Framework. Okay. So there's 11 files in here. All right. Now you can see the something's off with this folder. Okay. That doesn't matter. It is not reflecting my accurate chat. Okay, sorry. Let me just get back here. Where is this chat? Yeah, this is in here. Oh, sorry. I was in the wrong project folder. Okay, there it is. It's got 7 files. You see the master file here? Okay, that's what it's referencing. That's the screenshot. Oops, I didn't even know open it. So if I just go back to the chat, there it is. Now it's basically telling me, so I know it's like whatever day it is today, November 18th. So I'm going to say that is the updated file list. Okay. Now, would you like me to give you the key settings for review? I have this in my README. So usually I say no, but I'm going to say yes. Please show me the settings. Please show me the README settings. And now you can see how I set up a README. Good thing I can read it without my eye there. So this is the README. Everything that it's told to do, this is how I control it, right? Without being able to put into project's instructions. So I have output format rules. Okay, this is how I want the outputs. I don't want emojis. I don't want casual language. I want H2, H3 headings, APA citations, certain word uses. Okay, I tell it their source of truth files. I tell it the reference protocol. Inspect this, state the file's date versus today, report up to date, blah, blah, blah. Right. So I'm telling it to do all of these things. Brand guidelines, it knows what to do, terminology, avoid, behavioral rules, right? This I don't like it when I ask it to do something and my LLM just goes and starts creating so much stuff I don't even know what it's doing. Right. And it's like in Claude, it's burning my context, right? But it's just like, whoa, what did you just do? So like I put a character stop. Like, if you're going to create something that's more than a certain amount of characters, talk to me first. Let's figure out what you're doing before you go down that, that path and just waste our time. So there you go. This if it does that, it's going to tell me exactly what it's going to create. And then project specific, I mean, this is very like specific to what I need it for, but I'm just showing you like you can go in there and you can control these things somewhat. And that is like really the beautiful benefit of a README. Now, I'm going to switch over in the spaces and you're going to see that this is Perplexity. And I'm going to click on this. So there's where you can add some instructions. I didn't do it because I put the README in. Okay. But if you notice, Perplexity has like 15 files for ChatGPT. For this project only has 7. Now, if we go over to Claude, which is like my go-to. Claude has 10 files, right? But it's the same play. I'm working on the same project, just in a different thing. It's got some stuff in the memory, no instructions. It has a README. Now I'm going to tell it this. Read the master file list and tell me which files you want added to your project folder. I use ChatGPT and Perplexity as you were timed out. I meant to say when you were timed out. So Claude was timed out. I didn't stop working. I went and made a bunch of extra stuff and it doesn't have it all. So now I want to get it back up to date. It's going to take a look and see what files it needs because in that notion, some of these files are one-offs. They don't need it. It's not a source of truth. It's a template for something. It's a questionnaire. It's just not something that's related to going through all of these milestones. So it knows what it needs. So based on the master file list, here are the things that it wants. See, it's naming them by track too. So if you remember, organize the files. I know maybe it's a little complex. Why does you have track A, C, and D? Actually define them. I don't even know where my notion went. You can see up here, there's track A, there's track B, there's track C. Methodology and core IP, think circle business layer, client-facing templates, branded assets. Okay. You don't have to go this deep. This is very customized for me. And I don't want you to get lost in the technical aspect of it. I just want you to understand the power of a README and the power of giving your LLM a visual reference guide to the files that it has. Okay. And this is how you can control the output. This is how you control the quality. And this is how you control where it's getting the information it's using for you and hopefully reduce hallucinations. Now, if you look here, this is a different project folder. I have 48 files. Some of them are more than 100 pages, right? So you can see why this is going to get important. And like I'll tell you, I don't know, Gemini is different, but ChatGPT could never handle this much, and neither could Perplexity. So Claude really is a beast in that world. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of go back over what we just went through. So for ChatGPT, we looked at files organized with README and file reference. It didn't have as many files as Perplexity. I showed you how I prompt to start work. I had the ability, it literally prompted me to tell it if it had all of the up-to-date files because it was in the README. Then it asked me if I wanted to review the README. Now, something you should know about the README is when I look at those rules, I might override them in that chat. So I could override them in that chat. I could say, hey, you know what? I actually want you to do X, Y, Z instead of this. And it will do it, but only in that chat. And if I open a new chat and say, go after the README, it will then follow the original, right? So it's not a slippery slope. If I need to make a one-time change the way I want it to function, I can implement it that way. Claude, we saw it uses README as well. I asked Claude, what files do you need from file reference? It told me the missing files compared to Perplexity, compared to actually what was in the Notion. Sorry, I'm not even in full screen anymore. Go back. Um, and that's like a big benefit if you are working cross-platform, or let's say you're in a group and people are sharing files, and it's just getting mad and like like you almost, if you're working in a large group, you should almost have like somebody like sergeant of files. It's like a it's like an army thing, sergeant of arms, or a navy thing, but you could have a sergeant of files to be quite honest, right? And they just make sure they're organized. Perplexity, different files than Claude and ChatGPT. I didn't really show much with it. And then we looked at Notion so you could see how it was organized. So that was the cross-platform file management system I employ. Now I'm going to do a custom GPT demo. Um, we have what's called a good problem. And, we have problems all the time. So a good problem is a good one. So you have a working prompt in a chat and realize you keep repeating this task across different projects, but you do not need it stored in a folder because it's not part of an ongoing project. Time to use a custom GPT, right? This is like a one-off thing. It's a function. It helps your workflow, but it doesn't need to be integrated or kept anywhere. So let's see the challenge. I have 10 SEMrush exports with generic names. I need consistent naming, okay? And I want a downloadable zip for easy transfer. That part's funny. We'll come back to the zip. What you'll see, I'll upload files to a custom GPT. I'll request them to be renamed. You'll see the GPT deny me giving a zip file. Okay, I'll do that in the second one because I actually told it it's not allowed to. And then you'll see how it provides the new names, the output format that I've asked for, and the downloadable files. Why this matters? Well, we're going to show you the capabilities of a custom GPT for these narrow little things. I'm going to demonstrate how to override default behaviors that you've programmed in, and only custom GPTs can connect to automation tools. So you do kind of want to understand how to use them if you can. And this pattern works for any repetitive task, any repetitive file processing task, but so many other tasks. Okay, so here we are. I don't even know if I'm in here. So you can see some of my custom GPTs I have here on the side. They're all starting here, right? Yeah, that's them. So I'm going to look for one called the file naming agent. Okay, I'm in the file naming agent. I'm going to give it a little nudge, say, let's convert some files. It's going to respond, I'm your file naming agent at your service. Which files are we renaming today, Chris? Perfect. So if I did it properly, I have a bunch of files here. All right. You notice there's no client name, there's no nothing, it's just files. Bang. All right. Now, R or circle, think circle from SEMrush, um, 19 November. I don't even know, it might be the 18th, 2025. All right. That's all I'm right. Oh, I don't know what this is. Oh, that's the visualization. Don't worry about that. But there it is. So it's trying to actually show some images. But yeah, it's working here. So I've always told it to show me the original. Actually, the original, the renamed folder path, download file. It should work. File is not found. So sometimes it does that. Then you go like this. File is not found. I don't know why it does it. It'll fix it. We did it earlier. It didn't do it. So now it will fix it. Usually it works right away. Let's see what happened here. Still not found. Not sure why. This actually worked fine earlier. Still not found. This is odd. Let me see what's going on. Well, these happen. This happens with custom GPTs. Usually this thing works all the time. I'm not sure why it's deciding to do this right now. Let's try a different file. Oh, there it is. Okay. I don't know what its problem was, but you can see the files are downloading now. So I'm not sure what that was. If it does say a file not found, remake it. But for the most part, usually you don't have to redo it. Now we can see it's like named what it is, backlink gap, which is a form of analysis for website backlinks. Desktop, think circle 2025. All right, and you can see page and screen class, content group, desktop. It says desktop because it could be mobile also. Anyways, that doesn't matter. So let's go look and let's try something now. Let's go zip these folders. Zip these for me. Okay. And let's see what it does. Okay. As your file naming agent, I'm unable to zip or combine files by directive. Never zip or combine files. This ensures all files remain individually. I'm going to say uh, override, override, and zip zap. Let's see what it does. There you go. Now it's zipped them, right? So let's go look at what a custom GPT looks like for any of you that haven't seen it. Okay, this is a custom GPT. If you want to, you can put on what capabilities it has. It doesn't need image generation. It doesn't need Canvas. It doesn't need web search. I turn them off. If you wanted to automate it, but create a new action here. I don't need to automate it. I could make it send that file somewhere if I wanted to be quite honest. I don't have to download it. I could make it pass it through, but it would have to pull it from a Google Drive folder, put it here or there with like make or zip here, but I'm not going to get into that. Anyways, long story short, there are your instructions. Act as a file management assistant for SEO professionals. Okay, important. Let's see where the zip thing is. You can see I put like the output format in here, all the expectations I want. Now, if I go zip, I don't know why I actually made this rule in the beginning, but for some reason that's in there. I'm actually going to get rid of it. So I don't know why it's there. So I got rid of the zip. And from now on, it will never say I can't zip them again. I could actually tell it to zip them ahead of time if I wanted to. Okay, so that's it for a file. Now, I look like I'm going a tiny bit faster than last time, so I'm going to show you all one other new thing. And it's not going to take long. I just want you to see this here. So let's say you want to build a custom GPT. There's really 7 steps, okay? And I'm going to kind of show you in here. So when I come up with an idea or something, I have built an agent that walks me through these 7 steps. So I want you to act as a custom GPT builder agent. You guide users through the structured creation of either modular systems or custom GPTs, blah, blah, blah. So you have a purpose, you have goals, okay? A few sub things, key inputs, expected, all of these different things. And it'll just walk you through this, right? So it's actually, if you ever want to try building one of these, you could have Gemini say, give me a 7-step process for building a custom GPT with an act as statement. And then you could just put that in a custom GPT and try it and build another one. Okay, let's just see right here. I'm gonna stop this one. I didn't really need to update. I don't know why I updated it. Let's go back. Okay, so now you're gonna see it's just gonna start asking me questions. And I'm going to say, what is your primary, I'm not going to go through it all, but what is your primary purpose or use case for this GPT? And I pre-programmed all these questions. So if you want to try and build one for something, I have a few suggestions of how you might do it. Okay, so we'll get there. So the demo 2 recap, when to use a custom GPT versus a folder. Use a folder when you're exploring a new project or workflow, building context incrementally over weeks. Not sure the final output format files need to stay together as one project, right? This is really a folder. This is probably most of your work except your random one-off questions when I'm asking about, the distance between Pluto and Venus and stuff like that. That doesn't need to go in a folder. Now, use a custom GPT when you have a proven repetitive workflow. That was a proven repetitive workflow. Same task across different projects, right? Not one ongoing project. I could actually take all of my, files from like a folder from where I save that goes to Notion file reference. Maybe like, I don't actually like the way these are named. I want them renamed more logically. You could rename them all for me, right? You want to standardize output every time. Remember, standardization is key, and you're ready to scale or prepare for automation. Um, some examples. maybe you could use these, I don't know, survey data cleaning, research note formatting, bibliography generation, report template filing. Now, there's probably things that do this all. You have systems, but I'm just trying to give you some ideas of how you could try and make a custom GPT if you haven't already. All right, so we're getting near the end here and kind of right on time. So let's put it all together to the complete workflow. If I were Professor Legendre would say, "Thank you, Chris. I appreciate your two lectures today, but now I have an assignment for you. I'm going to send you 30 files." This is what I would do. I'd say, no, no, I'm joking. I'd say, okay, perfect. I would go step one. I would choose my tool, right? Folder for multi-deliverable organization and exploring, project for 5+ files and deep research, custom GPT for proven repetitive workflows, space for verified research with citations. I got to make some decisions in there. Once I do that, I'm going to set up my structure. I'm going to name my files properly. I'm going to create my README. I'm going to document my files in Notion, the beginning ones that I have, create template, and then obviously it's an ongoing thing. As you're creating more files, as soon as I create a file, I just put it in Notion right away. Even if I don't upload it to all the LLMs, that's why I have that. I can come back and do it later because that can get tedious. But I put it in the Notion right away. And then you upload your README, your file reference, plus your project files. And there, now you have your workspace organized. Now you're going to initialize the workspace. Okay, so that first prompt I showed you, read file reference and README and whatever. It lets you let the LL confirm it understands the project. This sets expectations for how you'll work together. Okay, step four, work and iterate. Build on previous sessions, update Notion table when file changes, new file reference, screenshot, delete old one, refine README based on what works. You might say, hey, something's wrong here. Like, I don't like what it's doing. Or, I want it to do this. No problem. Just update your README when you start another chat or even an existing chat. Just say, hey, I updated the README. Tell me when you're ready to blah, blah, blah. If you want to tell it what it is, you can, but it'll just find it. Now, is the second last slide. So checklist plus common mistakes to avoid. Your workspace setup checklist. I'm not going to read it all because we just went over it, but that's kind of the checklist here. If you're watching the video, you can kind of screenshot it. And remember, I made all of this myself. If anyone has any feedback or anything or suggestions, I'd love them because I'm just doing this stuff. Common mistakes to avoid, generic file names, okay, and not having a README. This can result in having to explain context every session or inconsistent outputs. And just, it's like, it can actually really change your mood, especially when you're in a hurry. It can really rub you the wrong way. And it's AI, but it can get under your skin. So we can prevent that. Wrong tool for the task. Okay. Don't use folders for 20 file deep research. Yeah, use a Claude project. Don't use Claude when preparing for automation. Creating custom GPT too early. Build, improve the workflow in folder first, then standardize, right? If you really need it. I personally do build them all the time on my own now just because I have that kind of thing. And I will tell you, my little custom GPT builder does has like a reality check clause. Like, I don't think you need this. Basically, there's a step in there where it's like, is this actually needed? And sometimes it can be a reality check. And then not updating file reference, right? You leave your old screenshot in there. Your LLM's working with an outdated file inventory, or Claude has one, Gemini has a different, or whoever you're using. Sorry, I don't know if ChatGPT has a different one, Perplexity. You just want to make sure that that's consistent.